Welcome back to TYT Sports. Some more Rio Olympics coverage. Of course, it's not good news.
We should just create like a little soundbar when we say Rio Olympics and just press it and it goes, shite! Every time we talk about it, because it's never good news.
I saw a mosquito the other day. I was like, no. Don't bite
They're coming!
Don't bite me. They're coming from Rio. It's only a little bit way north and a little bit west. Geography. So the headline reads from Bleacher Report this morning, Rio Olympics anti-doping lab suspended by the WADA. The details and the reaction. The World Anti-Doping Agency suspended the 2016 Summer Olympics drug testing lab after discovering technical errors. So here, problem one, the lab had technical errors. Problem two, those who are testing for PED uses and steroids is now suspended. What more could possibly go wrong with this Olympics? I did a little bit of research. And you look back on, Al Michaels' interviews where he talks about, they said in the 90s when the U.S., there's people with rocket launchers on the top of buildings, and the smog of L.A., and the pollution in China is going to be. I don't remember. It was always like one thing they finitely focused on, like the traffic. The L.A. Olympics is going to be a disaster. We can't host it here because people can't get to work because of the traffic, right? It was bad traffic, but we're used to it already, right? There's that checklist of things, the Zika virus, the financial ruin. Now within the games itself, so now it's beginning to actually affect not so much the athlete's health, which is the worst part of anything, but now this begins to affect the not just quality of play, but the credibility.
Credibility of the result. It's tainted. It's already tainted.
And we know the Olympics is historically tainted with PED and steroid use. Historically.
I don't know. I don't know what to
question.
say.
Francis Maxwell, are you surprised?
I don't know what to say anymore, brother. I really don't. It's like I came into this clip, we got it thrown on our desk, and we're like, right, is there a silver lining? Is there a silver lining amidst the murky, shit-filled waters that unfortunate athletes are going to have to partake in this tournament? No, there is nothing. The reason is because it could have been avoided, Jason. That's what we keep saying. We do these clips, and I'm hoping that somewhere, somehow, maybe our PR gets involved, but they're like, TYT Sports, I think, are actually talking some sense. This blows up, and people are like, they did have a case study. They just had a World Cup. Didn't go as well it went as well in front of the millions as it planned, but they didn't leave the country in a very good state. Didn't leave them in ruins. But no one. It's almost as if it didn't happen. It's almost as if as soon as that television went off and Germany won the World Cup, it's like, it's all right.
There's a
job
word
done.
for it. It's called ignorance. Is when everyone tunes in and then doesn't want to see what's outside the frame. Right. Yeah. Outside of this frame, there's some lights. There's a ground. It's very clean. But if this were Rio, in the situations where some of the places are, outside of this frame would look tragic.
Yeah.
And actually Getty Images, and I wish I could find the link off the top of my head, but they did a whole picture study of how beautiful the stadiums looked in the background and had focused in slums in the foreground, and it was devastating. And those same pictures are going to resurface in Rio. So speaking of the official release from the WADA on the matter, featuring comments from incoming director, God, that guy's got a hell of a lot to deal with, Olivier Niggli, the agency will ensure that for the time being, samples that would have been intended for the laboratory will be transported securely, promptly, and with a demonstrable chain of custody to another WADA-accredited laboratory worldwide. This will ensure that there are no gaps in the anti-doping samples analysis procedures and that the integrity of the samples is fully maintained. Athletes can have confidence that the suspension will only be lifted by WADA when the laboratory is operating optimally, and that the best solution will be to put in place to ensure the sample analysis for the Rio Olympics and Paralympic Games is robust. Here's the problem. It ain't getting done by August 5th. So your biggest issue is we would know whether or not some of these athletes were doping, and instead they might win some gold medals, and a month and a half later it's going to come out that they tested positive for some PEDs. The aftermath of these games is going to be, insert word of the day. Do we have a word of the day, Francis?
Shambolic.
Shambolic. The aftermath of these games will be shambolic. That's how we're going out.
That's what I think of this story.
And
that's what I think of the Olympics so far.
I wonder what paper this is.
It's exactly. It's just there's no silver lining, and it's all we can bring to you is that
one shot. This is Francis's engineering skills. You were a poli-sci major, also very well read up on English and both UK and American history from Francis, and very intelligent. He always was in college too. This is not his major.
Strong point. And I was an engineer before any of this became to fruition, and that is how I was not an engineer come a few years after.
It's like the SpaceX first landing.
By the way, over under and something else coming up before August 5th that adds to the already tragic sequence of events.
I don't even know what it is.
Just of like, what do you is there something else that's going to come out that make the Olympics already even worse?
I would say the over-under is set at 7 headlines that will be, oh my God, I can't believe this happened with the Olympics. I'm going to say 4. Over-under 4 headlines that surprise you that don't include Zika, pollution, polluted waters.
Yeah, no, everything else that's already happened is already out the window. So it has to be something new. This was something new. I was at least a little bit surprised and happy that I didn't have to talk about the same bullshit that already had to be talked about weeks ago.
We have so much, like, oh my God, the list goes on. We'll do a full Rio, like what went wrong with the Rio Olympics after the Rio Olympics, because again.
And then we'll probably forget it when they win a gold medal for the USA and Jason's happy.
Probably. Probably.
We won at least.
Comment below, boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, misters and missuses, dogs and cats. No cats. Cats suck. Dogs rule. Like,
no
favorite,
way.
subscribe.
You just said cats suck on YouTube. It's made up of half cat lovers.
I know, it's our competition. At Francis_Maxwell, at Jason91, at TYT Sports, at Jabari in the booth. Is not an actual Twitter handle.
Should be, though.